Hey, you blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink.
I got you.
Let's go.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome here to another edition here of the Mass Steel Podcast. Where, of course, yours truly, Charles Bryce Richey. Tonight, we'll be covering not only some recent signings that happened over the weekend, but also, too, we'll be covering cornerbacks in this session of the NFL draft that the Steelers may need to consider right now. Remember, since moving on from Steven Nelson right there and releasing him for cap purposes and going with a younger Cam Sutton, will Steelers be wanting to add more depth in that position, which I'm sure will be the case right there. We'll have that covered for you tonight from Walter Football. And plus, we also got some league news around the NFL that you heard about. We'll get to them momentarily. Once again, if you guys want to follow me on social media, you can definitely do so on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richey. For the Mass Steel Podcast on Twitter, it is at Mass Steel CJR and at Mass Steel Nation on Instagram for right now. As we are a little over 2.5 weeks away from the NFL draft taking place in Cleveland this year. And the Steelers, once again, they'll be picking for this year's draft. They'll have 24th in the first round, 55th in the second round, 87th in the third round, 2 fourth-round picks, which includes a compensatory pick, which is 140th. And before that one in the fourth round, it'll be 128th. A 6th-round pick at 216th, and 2 7th-round picks include 245th and 254th. And we'll continue to see how they continue to scrap things along the way. It's definitely been somewhat of a painful offseason away, but manageable so far. I mean, the only positive so far you could say is they've been able to make some decent cap space, maintain just enough guys on offense. I mean, more in particular, we look at Ben Roethlisberger, Juju Smith-Schuster. Then you got Hassenauer as your center. We'll see how that pans out right now. Still little questions right now if the Steelers will even dare going that route, getting a center in this year's draft. Probably something I imagine they would hang on to for next year. And plus, it's also possible, too, that Ben Roethlisberger, according to John Clayton of ESPN, he definitely feels like he could play at least beyond 2021. And more in particular, when we look at right now, that would be in 2022. Now, remember, at that point in time, he'll be at the age of 40 if that continues to happen. But to be honest with you, I'm not really surprised at that. I've been kind of saying that myself pretty much consistently, too. I mean, a lot of indications would seem that, he was on his last legs. But for a guy who's pretty much throwing the ball for about no more than 5 yards when they had that hot 11-0 start, before things really started to slip away after the Ravens win, and pretty much around the time where they have one of their final key injuries right there, where you're out with Bud Dupree. Then previously, about almost 2 months ago, you're out Devin Bush for the rest of the season, and so forth. And you try looking how they're going to be able to regroup. And the defense right now, I think it's just right now just filling up a lot of depth needs. And when you truly look at it too, don't forget TJ Watt. He's another guy that's still floating around out there. Been checking constantly when he's going to be getting his contract extension. Remember, Rooney II did say a couple weeks ago on the fan forum that they're going to try and do everything they can to sign him long term. So that's going to be a more interesting question, too. I talked with Brian Diardo not too long ago on my show, about a couple weeks ago on that, and he seems to tend to believe that the signing more than likely will happen probably next season at the most, at this point. And plus, remember, they got around $10.5 million in cap space for the time being, and just see how they're going to make this happen. I think it's just more anything. Are the Steelers going back to an offensive style type of team once again? Where the defense will do just enough. I think the defense is going to be fine. Probably take a little step backs. I'm just going to be wondering right now, how much does the loss of Steven Nelson right now hurt as far as their takeaways they've been getting the last few years? Because remember, that's been one of the big things about the defense, how the takeaways have been increasing. That's the biggest thing right there. In 2018, they didn't have hardly next to shit in that. If you really think about it. In that year right there, when you look at that 2018 season right there, I mean, looking at it, I mean, that year, don't forget, they had at least 26 takeaways in 2018, which was, I mean, excuse me, 15 takeaways in 2018 with only 8 interceptions. And then, of course, 18, I mean, eight interceptions and 7 fumble recoveries right there. But then when you look forward, I mean, the last couple of years too, with that, aside from that 15 takeaways, 2019, we would see it pretty much more than double with 38 total takeaways, which included 20 picks, 18 fumble recoveries, and they were first in the league in defense in that area right there. I mean, with the takeaways, back-to-back years. I mean, for this year too, right now the total takeaways they had for this past season was 27. So 11 less takeaways from the year before, but still enough right there where they're reckoned. I mean, what made this defense? Fortunately, they did not show up in the playoffs. No, it did not. But this is where we're at right now. And I mean, a lot of things too. I ran a poll on Twitter earlier today. If you guys want to check it out, it is at MSSteelCGR. Once again, get on Twitter. I basically put on there, who do you believe Steeler Nation will be the Steelers' first position pick with their 24th overall pick in the first round? Will it be a running back, a edge rusher, or will it also be a yellow offensive tackle? And pretty much we are checking out the Twitter poll on that right now that I posted up here. And the results so far, we got 15 votes. About nearly 67% people feel like it's going to be running back in this year's draft. Offensive tackle, we're looking at about 27%, and about 7% feel like it's going to be an edge rusher of sorts. And I will anticipate that more so being offensive line in that when we look at it, but only time will tell in this. So again, I think this year it's going to definitely be right now for like at least the first 2-3. I think the first 2 picks easily. I think it's going to be running back, offensive tackle. But then again, how about the elusive tight end that they've been missing for quite some time? And that's going to be really the questions are answered right now too. And then more particularly Ben Roethlisberger himself too. I mean, with John Clayton alluding that he feels like he could play beyond 2021, how much is his work effort going to be changed at all, if any? I mean, remember, the biggest knock we've been hearing on Ben Roethlisberger, the way his offseason workouts are like drinking beer, playing golf, and yoga, pretty much, the way he's been getting by. And, I mean, one would think right there, too, when you look at the lasting image, the way the season ended and the playoff loss to the Browns right there, I mean, all teared up next to his guy, Marquise Pouncey. Some may think, I mean, will that be enough fuel in the fire right there to motivate him? And with him taking, like I said, $5 million less, he took a $5 million pay cut to remain with this team. How much is that going to motivate him to get in better shape right now? I mean, he's 39 years old. And the thing is, too, I mean, I heard Skip Bayless talking about this earlier, too. He definitely feels like Ben Roethlisberger is kind of like close to Brady as far as like longevity wise, and which I'm not sure if I'm going to say that, but he definitely does feel like a lot of it too, as we all know, is his size. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger's been able to have a body that's been able to take a lot of hits. I mean, he's also taking a lot of sacks at the same time. But you still remember, I mean, throughout all that, I mean, how he's able to withstand the punishment, be able to like make plays for his team. And I definitely do feel like this year too. I mean, just this full off season of rest without having to go through recuperation from a year ago with trying to see if he could throw out football. I definitely do feel like that's going to do wonders for him in coming back and being a new and improved Ben Roethlisberger. I think the thing is right now too, I mean, I want the running back. I really do. I feel like it's time. But then again, how much would an offensive tackle make that much of a difference? Give him more decent protection right now. Because right now, as we're looking at right now, who's like still on the roster right now as we look at everything. Who, for this year, as we look and see how everybody's doing right now. That's where we gotta pay a lot more attention. Look her in the mirror right now, and just stay with me here for a second right now as we take a look at it and see what's going on over here for the moment. You still got James Conner right now. And there was also a report today too, nearly a month after unrestricted free agent James Conner is right now, according to NFL.com's Nick Shook, who's recovering from off-season toe injury, will undergo a physical with Arizona, according to NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport. Conner suffered a very moderate turf toe injury while riding a recreational vehicle this offseason. He is expected to be fully recovered by June, according to Rappaport. Right now. So he looks like he might be drawing some attention right now from the Cardinals, in case anyone's wondering about him right there. And I gotta think it's just about inevitable that he's just about gone right now. From this team, as we look at it. James Conner, like I said, he just did not do enough to cut the mustard. He only had that one great year. When you really look at it, back in 2018, scrimmage wise, and it just almost seems like he was a one hit wonder, and possibly throughout the year where he was backing up Le'Veon Bell more than anything, and I just not so sure how much that ship has sailed with him. Listen, he's just not done enough. He has not been that guy that we thought he was going to turn out to be. So definitely want to wish him a lot of luck. For all his contributions he's been making. But also, too, I wanted to ask you guys a question real quick, too. I don't know if you guys happen to catch the Michael Irvin podcast that happened not too long ago, this past weekend, where Juju Smith-Schuster was talking with the playmaker, Michael Irvin, right there, talking about his season stuff. Real great, interesting storyline, too, on his dad and stuff, too. And he talked about definitely how like his dad left him when he was like 4 years old as a kid, and how he was able to get his name as he was born as John Sherman, and eventually changed it while growing up. The Juju name he was talking about, and I think he said it had something to do with some dance moves he was doing when he was a kid. His ma looked at a choo-choo train, I guess, eventually just called it like Juju. So you look at all the stuff right there. A lot of heat he's taken from the dancing on TikTok and what he's been able to making $2 million in endorsements from that. Now, the only concern is where we saw it. And Michael Irvin was one of the guys to say, like, don't try and turn this guy into all of a sudden like a bad guy, where he's drawing all this negative attention and being a distraction to his team. And listen, any guy is entitled to with social media promotions. When you have such a huge following like he does, Juju Smith-Schuster, and when you take a look, at him, on Team Juju, who's got about $1.1 million, 1.1 million followers on his Twitter. And of course, I mean, you look at his Instagram and stuff too. I mean, he's a guy who's a man of the people in the way off the field. I mean, he does a lot. I mean, you look at this game right now. I mean, you don't blame athletes for trying to get like some significant endorsements and trying to keep themselves better past the game of football. I think Schuster, for the most part, is that he will. Listen, a lot of guys in the locker room felt like he didn't need to change himself when he was doing the TikTok or whatever, or dancing on the low before games. They kept telling him to be him, and even Michael Irvin was encouraging that. And I understand that, but you also got to realize too, as much as you're having fun, you also got to realize there's still some players who have been playing around before Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram really started exploding and being on the horizon too. I mean, there's got to be some different mindsets that what you're doing on a team's logo, like it or not, you're going to draw some motivation from the other team to either lay a hit on you or to shut you down. And I think Juju Smith-Schuster, at the end of the day, he is a fun kid to watch. I mean, in his career right now with the Steelers, and you would definitely like to see him like have like something to show for it by the time his career is said and done. And he even opened up about his relationship too with Antonio Brown. I mean, how's everything going on? I mean, like he said, his people's trying to reach out to him. I think he's blocked off from him altogether, and there has been like they have not been able to sell any differences. I mean, that's another one too. That's like an interesting saga right there from a couple of years ago. I mean, definitely turned out to be some tension right there. I mean, on that team, when you especially look at the foul year they were playing together, 2018, where he won team MVP from Antonio Brown, and Antonio Brown was criticizing how he dropped a significant catch against the New Orleans Saints, and then pretty much, I mean, that was Antonio Brown's last game we saw in a black and gold uniform. I mean, on the field of play. And just disappointing how it had to end, but it just went over two different teams within 1 year, was released once and for all, then finds his way up last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be a contributor on a Super Bowl winning team with his former offensive coordinator, Bruce Arians. All kudos to him, I mean, at the end of the day right now. And I got some people joining on here right now. I got, let's see. I got Pens underscore fan underscore one right now. Hey, Penguins right now doing real significant right now. I want to ask you real quick. Do you feel like the Penguins right now in Pittsburgh sports right now play as high as they are? I mean, with this newly division format that is going on too right now. Let's not forget this year too. They're going to be playing. They're eliminating the East and West conference tradition right now. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're third place in their division with 56 points, 2 points away from the Capitals right now, who are in top of that division. They are tied with the Islanders at 58 points apiece. Now, if the playoffs were to begin today, the Penguins will be opening up against the Boston Bruins. Then the Washington Capitals would take on the Islanders. And then the winner of that series between the Caps and Islanders and the Pens and Bruins would square off in the second round. And they would meet the winner, I want to say, against the West in there, which would be the Colorado Avalanche versus like the St. Louis Blues and the Vegas Golden Knights versus Minnesota Wild in that playoff bracket. So it could be very well possible that you see two Eastern Conference teams going at it for the Stanley Cup. I mean, basically. And that could definitely happen right there. I mean, as we speak for this year, and see how that continues to work itself out. So the Penguins right now, what do you think? Do you feel like they're not only have a good shot to win it all, but possibly a team right now who could possibly, at the same time, win the President's Trophy? And the team right now, who's the top dog in the league in all sports, is the Colorado Avalanche. They got 60 points right now. And speaking of which, as far as like the teams who have won the President's Trophy in the history of the National Hockey League, has been 8 teams total who have won the President's Trophy, and they've been able to go on to win the Stanley Cup. And you had the Colorado Avalanche, to their credit, they won that thing 2 times. They was able to win it once back 20 years ago in 2001. Ray Bork right there was able to get his elusive Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche, playing 22 seasons, went out on top to retire, longtime Boston Bruin. So let's keep that in perspective. Anyway, back to the NFL. So let's get into the Steelers transactions right now. Beginning right now with defensive tackle, they signed Abdullah Harrison today. He spent the last 3 years on the practice squad for the Bears and Vikings. At 6'4", 295 pounds, he played in 106 defensive snaps with the Bears 2 years ago and 10 last season with the Vikings. His career total in those 6 career games has 4 tackles and 1 sack. While in college, he had 42 tackles and 9 tackles for loss, while helping Bison to the league's best total defense, 294.6 yards allowed per game. He was a 4-time All-Patriot League selection and could be another option for the Steelers practice squad if he makes it to training camp. Also, too, they also signed defensive end TJ Carr on a 1-year level entry contract back on April 9th. Now, this will not affect the salary cap from what I'm told. He played 4 years out of Kentucky while drafted last season, but was cut prior to training camp. This guy has totaled up 71 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 6 passes, 5 passes, and 10 quarterback hurries in 50 games, 28 starts in college, with the majority of those coming as a senior. 26 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hurries, and 2 sacks. Also, back on April 7th, too, which would have been on Wednesday, they added depth at outside linebacker with Jameer Jones to a 1-year minimum salary. That doesn't affect the cap as well. He is currently the brother of Jerron Jones, who's currently on the practice squad. Jameer Jones went undrafted out of Notre Dame after a 4-year career in which he played 55 games, but managed only 4.5 sacks. He was signed by the Texans after the 2020 NFL draft, but was released the day before camp. He did not catch on with a team until the Steelers signed him. So those are the transactions right there. Now let's go ahead and look at this year's cornerbacks Steelers should consider right now as we look at, because right now, bottom line is this. They're going to need some depth right now, for this year. At the position of corner, if you really think about it. Yeah, you still got Joe Hayden. You got Cam Sutton right now. No longer Steve Nelson, who made a huge contribution to this team. The last few years, what he's been able to do. And really going to be interesting how the Steelers are able to work this out right now throughout this. And the roster, when you totally look at it, more in particularly how they're going to be able to fill it. Right now, they currently on their corners, they got Cam Sutton, and like I mentioned, Joe Hayden. And of course, you also got James Pierre, Justin Lane right now, too. Joe Hayden. So you're definitely going to want to be filling up some depth guys right there and see who's going to be one on there to be making those depth fill-ins right there. For this year on the corner market. Because when you look at the depth chart from the previous year of the Pittsburgh Steelers, on the defensive side for corners, you had behind Joe Hayden, James Pierre, he's still on the team right now, and then right cornerback Justin Lane. So and you got Cam Sutton in there. So, I mean, I would imagine Justin Lane would still be big in there. But the only interesting question too is the nickel quarterback, Mike Hilton. He's gone to the Bengals right now. So I would anticipate maybe a third, fourth round pick. Here's a couple of options the Steelers should continue. In this year's draft, number 5 cornerbacks, they're going to be projected in the first round, as well as 5 in the top 100 picks, which is usually the first 3 rounds, basically. And right now, I mean, Greg Newsome out of Northwestern, he had a really good skill set with toughness, as according to his analysis on Walter Football. And when you look at him, team sources say Newsome has excellent technique and always stays on phase to shut down his opponents. Newsome could slide to the second or third round of the 2021 NFL draft because he suffered a lot of injuries in college, and there are a lot of concerns about his ability to stay healthy. But again, I mean, you're looking at draft needs. You're looking at something to fill. I mean, depth needs, to fill. I would think that'd be a good start right there. I mean, you have to be a little bit more prepared for anything at this juncture right now, and just trying to keep a well balanced defense and just a team you could just still put on the field right now. Listen, I mean, it's really low, depending what they do in the draft, as far as like having a chance. I mean, as Super Bowl title, I'm not expecting much out of it, but I definitely do feel like right now they also got to look at it right now. Also, want to pay a big shout out to Maria Siag, 361. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying your Monday right now. Thanks for joining me here on the Mass Steel podcast right now. We're talking quarterbacks right now. Steelers should consider. Also, another one too is Eric Stokes out of Georgia. Team sources, they have a third round grade on Stokes, but the possibility exists that he goes late in the second round. I mean, that would be another interesting one right there. I mean, with this year's draft right now, trying to figure out some decent core. I mean, I think just the only thing you really need to look at is like your nickel coverage, basically, which you know more likely they're going to utilize. I mean, with defense as part and like their sub patches and stuff. Because like also too another cornerback too, the Steelers consider. I mean, for this year's draft going into it, let's also look at it right now too. You also right now for the corners right now, you got Rodarius Williams out of Oklahoma State. This guy has had a total of 2 picks, 0 fumble recoveries. He's right now. I mean, on this depth need of Walter Football, he is 9th. Source for multiple teams says Williams' play was massively improved in 2020. He will be no worse than a second-day pick in the 2021 draft, which presumably would be on a Friday night, basically. Williams did produce a huge stat line in 2020, but scouts love the coverage ability he showed in 2020. He probably would go no later than the 3rd round. Williams has quality size, will enter the NFL with significant experience after playing all 4 years for the Cowboys. But in his first 3 years, however, teams threw at Williams' play was that of a late rounder, according to team evaluators. His draft stock should continue to rise, so keep an eye on him. And one more name to consider, too, Shaun Wade, quarterback, Ohio State. Against Penn State in week 2, Wade had some problems with wide receiver Jayon Dotson. He got the better of Wade on a few plays, but on some receptions. Wade was in good position with close coverage, but Dotson just made excellent plays on the ball. Wade is still developing as an outside corner. Team sources say Wade is big and fast and has upside, but he has a lot of issues in technique that lead to him giving up plays. So there you have the corners right now. Let's go ahead and pay a shout out right now to the great guy, great receiver, more in particular for the Patriots, but 3-time Super Bowl champion. Failed the physical today due to knee injury. We were told This was reported by Ian Rappaport and people online. After playing 12 seasons for the Patriots, Julian Edelman, he announced his retirement following a knee injury that became too cumbersome to overcome. The Patriots officially released Edelman with a failed physical designation, merely a procedural move to generate about $3.4 million in cap space. He finished his fourth all-time in the Patriots franchise with 6,822 yards and ninth in touchdowns with 36. Three-time Super Bowl champion, no Pro Bowls, but at the same time, too, I think the biggest game of his career will be against in that comeback, a part of that 25-point deficit where they're really churning, and in the fourth quarter against the Falcons right there. Congratulations, Julian Edelman. Wish you great post-retirement. And that's going to do it for this edition here of the Master Podcast. No fair or foul tonight, but we'll return to you Wednesday night. Feel free to keep it here. Again, you guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richey. Master Podcast on Twitter at MassSteelCGR and at MassSteelNation on Instagram. Did I leave you? Don't be trolling. Be rolling.